My journey this time will take me through the southern part of the Outer Hebrides.
Wow, look at these cliffs.
I'll meet people whose lives were transformed by moving here.
I just feel a real sense of belonging, and it's been really life-changing.
And I'll meet people who pray and play.
We always played on Sundays, church, and then the football in the afternoon.
Join me on a 1,000-mile journey across 20 of Scotland's magical sacred islands. I'm taking one of the dozens of ferries that crisscross the seas to Scotland's remote islands. From Oban on the west coast of the mainland, it's a 5-hour journey to reach my destination, the Outer Hebrides. I can see the chain of islands on the horizon. I've lived on the island of Great Britain all my life, but I wouldn't describe myself as an islander.
We are an island nation ourselves, but it's a very different proposition when your island is so much smaller and life is so much more tangible. You're living so much closer to the elements. You become much more aware of your impact. You become much more aware of the importance of the weather, the seas, everything around you. Hey, look.
My first stop is the island of Barra. Then I'll visit the uninhabited island of Mingulay before I continue north to Eriskay and on to South and North Uist. Christianity reached these shores 1,400 years ago, and Barra's named after one of the early Celtic saints, Finbar. The Protestant Reformation made inroads in the northern part of the islands, but not in the south, and Irish missionaries reinforced the Catholic faith here in the 17th century. This is the main settlement, Castle Bay. It's named after the imposing medieval fortress just offshore. It was once a thriving herring port, and fishing is still one of the main livelihoods on the island today. A long-standing maritime tradition, knitted fishermen's jumpers, has a strong symbolic connection to people's lives here.
Fishing obviously plays and has played a huge part in island life. Last time I was up here, I visited an island just north of here called Eriskay, and I got a fisherman's jumper, this one. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to understand a little bit more about the hidden messaging within the knitting with the next person I'm off to meet.
I've come to the north of the island to meet knitter Margaret Ann and her cousin Donald William.
Morning!
Morning.
Hello, Margaret Ann, Donald William. How are you both?
We're grand, thank you.
Grand, yeah.
Good. Permission to come aboard?
Oh, fire on, yeah.
Thank you very much.
No bother.
Lovely day for it.
Yeah, perfect.
We're off for a spin around the bay. Margaret Ann grew up in this area. Her grandmother was a herring girl, and like many of them, she knitted in her spare time. She passed this skill on to Margaret Ann and taught her how to make fishermen's jumpers or guernseys.
Margaret Ann, I've always loved hand-knit sweaters. I actually got this years and years ago,
Oh, yeah.
my Eriskay sweater. Now, I know that this is something you do. Can you help me interpret what this means?
I can go through a few of them with you, you know. One at the top here,
Yep.
that's the tree of life.
Why the Tree of Life?
Life goes on, hope goes on, and it just grows from it. Running down the front there looks to be the closed diamond, the open diamond. I would say that's the knitter reflecting an empty net and a full net all the way through it. That's the way I would interpret it. For ourselves, this is a very old Guernsey. This is the one of my granny's that she had knitted. But this one pattern here is we call the true lover's knot. We'd identify that the fisherman was from Barra. The anchor's a sign of safe homecoming.
I wonder whether the story is true as well on a darker level, that if someone was washed overboard, they could be identified through their sweater.
Jersey, through their Guernsey. Yes, that's a very practical side of it. Very, very practical side of it. And you're hoping that one day your Guernsey isn't returned to you.
I actually find these really moving because not only have you got a story within the sweater, they're made for practicality, they're made for love, they're mementos, they're love letters.
Yeah, in a way, and there's also the sense of belonging and hope. The hope, you know, when they come home to receive their Guernsey, that it's been knitted again with the anchor on it to say, you know, the true love and happiness to see somebody coming home.
How important do you think knitting was to your ancestors?
I think in this day and age we talk about mindfulness and sort of taking time and sit back and taking time to think and process things. That's what you do when you're knitting. It's very, very therapeutic, you know. And it must have been when they would get the end of the day where they would just sit and think of maybe when they were at the herring, think about home, think about who they were knitting the jersey for, think about what was happening at home. So I think there's more to the Guernseys than just an item of clothing.
The women, known as herring girls, followed catches of herring as they moved around the coast. As the men caught the fish, the girls preserved them. While they travelled, they knitted and sent the jumpers back to fishermen at home.
How important is your ancestry?
Oh, very, very important. I think it's a thread of everything that we kind of stand for. I couldn't say one part of it being the culture, the language, the location. It all makes you up. It's all my makeup. 3 of my grandparents came from this area, you know, so I have a great hold to it. Both my grandfathers turned to the sea for money, and they had to turn towards the sea for a living, you know, and, you know, a hard living it would have been.
Is it true that part of the fisherman's wage had to go to the church?
Yes, at the end of the season it was divided up, and if there was 5 crew, it was divided into 6, and the 6th one went to the church, yeah. A lot of the churches in the southern end of the Western Isles were very based on money that came from the fishing. I suppose the appreciation to get home safely, you know, the church had a big, big part of the community. I suppose holding on to a bit of faith, you know, when times are hard, would have been essential to them. I think the spiritual connection to the sea and the sense of belonging, your roots are really within the sea and the hard way of life that your ancestors had. It's just, you know, it's very moving, actually.
I'm down at Halleman Bay, on the island's west coast. It's no wonder that one of the island's nicknames is Paradise. It's simply stunning. For me, this is a moment to slow down and be present, aware of myself and my surroundings.
I find it quite empowering that tomorrow is a whole new day. You can start afresh. A lot of people bring the baggage of yesterday to tomorrow, but actually I find it a really powerful moment to just be. I'm not always on a beautiful beach like this, but just be with nature, with the earth, with this extraordinary planet on which we live. We live so fast that we sometimes just don't take time to sit and absorb. And it's the place where I just don't think of specific things.
Before I leave Barra, there's one other place I'd like to visit, the highest point on the island. I've noticed little religious statues dotted around the island, and there's one up the hill that's much larger. It reminds me of the statue of Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro, and I'm intrigued to see it up close. I'm told that it's known locally as Our Lady of the Sea. Carved out of white marble, it's a sculpture of the Madonna and Child. She's the protector of seafarers and watches travellers coming and going from the harbour. And the views out to sea are spectacular. This is a familiar part of the world to me. The island where I lived for a year is in the Outer Hebrides, but this is an unfamiliar view. I've never seen the Outer Hebrides like this, certainly not with this weather. I have been to many of these islands before, but with the experiences I've had in the last 2 decades, I'm seeing them from a whole new angle now. And I think for me, that's what really excites me about understanding a bit more about what life is like here and why they're driven to the spirituality, to the religion, to the things that make the Outer Hebrides so unique. To understand why faith is so strong here, I'm keen to visit another island that I can just make out in the far distance. I can see Mingulay in the haze over there. It kind of looks otherworldly. I feel drawn to it. It's an island that has a religious connection going back hundreds of years, and somewhere that I've always wanted to visit.
This is an island I've never been to, an island I've heard so much about, an island steeped in spirituality, an island steeped in tragedy, in hope, in so many of those elements that make up island life, I suppose.
In the 16th century, Mingulay and the adjacent islands belonged to the Lord of the Isles. They were granted to the Bishop of the Isles, who leased them out for rent. Consequently, they became known as the Bishop's Isles. Mingulay is the second largest, at just 2.5 miles long. In the 19th century, it had a population of over 160, but the last residents left in 1912. To tell me about life here is my guide, National Trust Ranger Jonathan Grant. He looks after the island and does this trip regularly.
It's not a bad office you've got, Jonathan.
It's not at all. The commute to it is second to none.
Where is the magic of Mingulay?
It's manifold. It's natural. It's beauty, it's history, it's natural history, it's cultural history. There's an essence about the island that if you spend any time on it at all, it kind of seeps into you.
Do you have specific connections to the island?
My great-great-great-grandmother came from Mingulay, which is only something I discovered a few years ago. It meant quite a lot to me discovering that.
Even at this distance, the natural beauty of Mingulay is staggering.
Wow. This is why I've come. Look at these cliffs.
Forget the white cliffs of Dover. These are something else. It's like a huge cavernous cathedral, soaring 200 meters above us.
You see, this is my church, my mosque, my synagogue, my place of worship. But you can see why these islands are so founded on spirituality and religion. When you come to a place like this, you can't help but be moved. Dwarfed by nature here, dwarfed by the landscape.
The cliffs are a haven for nesting seabirds, like kittiwakes, razorbills, and even majestic eagles.
These birds here, this was one of the reasons people lived here. Imagine scaling those cliffs.
This was a larder for the island's inhabitants, who climbed down the near vertical cliffs to collect eggs. But their main livelihood was fishing and small-scale farming called crofting. They lived on the other side of the island. The white sandy beach here and these beautiful turquoise waters are simply incredible.
I wasn't expecting such an amazing greeting party. I have approximately 1,000 seals.
It's a world away from the island's rugged west coast.
This really is a tale of two worlds. There's dramatic cliffs on the other side, and this side, beautiful sandy beaches and our sign of life, buildings.
It's easy enough for the seals to get ashore, but more difficult for boats. Exposed to the wind and swell, the inhabitants were often cut off for weeks on end. Getting ashore today is still a challenge and requires a smaller boat.
Any knack in getting ashore here, Jonathan?
Just be very careful, and you don't hang about.
Okay, I'll follow you.
I'm lucky there's not too big a swell today. I might just be able to keep my feet dry.
Next back up.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're 12 miles from the nearest inhabited island. Despite being so remote, people lived here for thousands of years. Jonathan is now the most regular visitor and temporary resident. He stays in the last intact building on the island.
It's a school, and the building attached to it without the roof was actually the school room. So I think in its height it had about 40 children crammed into that wee building there.
Wow.
The families lived along the road in the old village. About 50 buildings clustered together here, most of them traditional black houses made with thatched roofs and dry stone walls. They were cold, damp and dark. But there's one building that's much grander. The church, built to house the visiting priest. There's something about its location that immediately draws my attention.
I'm curious about the church because it's obviously prime position. It's up on that little hill. I don't know if it's looking down on the community or the community are looking up to it.
Probably a bit of both, actually. I think most churches are placed in that sort of raised level, sort of looking over the community. We didn't have a resident priest on the island that would come down whenever he could, you know, every 4 to 6 weeks. In the winter time, he possibly wouldn't get down for months on end, you know. But the people here were very, very religiously minded, and the priest was a very, very important person in their day-to-day life. And there is a theory that one of the reasons the people actually left the island was to be nearer to their pastor, and also the priest would have been happier seeing quite a substantial amount of his flock nearer to hand, you know, where he could possibly keep an eye on them, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you find this quite a profound, powerful place? Because it feels very calm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a tranquility about it. I mean, okay, when the wind picks up, you got an easterly gale blowing in the bay there, it doesn't feel quite that tranquil, but a day like this, it's just, there's nowhere else quite like it. I mean, if you look up the sky there, there's eagles, golden eagles flying about. I mean, you just do not get to see that anywhere else. Yeah, it's only when you get to spend time on a place like this you can really absorb just the atmosphere of the place. You can sit up on the hillside overlooking the village and just trying to sort of reconstruct it in your mind, the noises, the people. Yeah, it's magical. Yeah.
I've been wondering about the church and the relationship with the people that lived on this island. Because for me, I think the draw of any sort of religion or spirituality is a sense of belonging and needing answers and help from something, someone else. And what I need to do is take myself back 100 years when this truly was a tough life here. I think you would need something else to believe in. And I think the church was that hope. Maybe it was the hope of a better life.
It's time for me to continue my journey north, to visit people who live on some of the other islands. This morning, I'm on the 9:25 ferry to Eriskay. Sadly, the weather's turned.
What a difference a day can make.
I love arriving by sea, whether on a small fishing boat or a ferry. It always feels like a proper journey. Eriskay is tiny. It's under 3 miles long and has a population of less than 150 people, not including the native Eriskay ponies. I've come to visit the island's Roman Catholic Church. It was built in 1903 when the population of the island swelled to around 400. Many of them had been cleared from their farmland in South Uist to make way for sheep. Here, they turn to the sea for their living, and the influence of their new livelihood is clear. There's nautical symbolism everywhere. The anchors are emblems of hope, as written in the letter to the Hebrews. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul. And even the altar is made from an old lifeboat from a World War II aircraft carrier. Here, work and faith seem indivisible. To understand why, I need to find out about the man who oversaw the building of this church, Father Alan MacDonald. He was a well-loved priest who lived and worshipped here at the beginning of the 20th century. But even 100 years after his death, people still remember him. The local History Society want to provide information about his life to visitors, so they're building a memorial to him.
Is that ready? This one down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've come to help builder Angus MacDonald construct it. This is one of 11 stone stacks known as cairns that will form a walking trail around the island. Each will have information on Father Alan's life story and his influence here.
Like that or like that? Flat. Other way.
It's a bit like putting together a stone jigsaw puzzle.
And then this one?
Yeah. Then flip it around. Yeah. That corner on the outside.
But I don't know the solution.
Do you know, I think you better, you know how they go. And that one? That one goes in there. Exactly as this is.
Yeah.
There we go.
This cairn is adjacent to Eriskay's statue of the Virgin Mary. Eriskay native Sandra McInnes is from the local History Society, who've organised the project.
Sandra, I find it absolutely amazing that more than 100 years on, you're still celebrating Father Alan here on Eriskay. Why is he such a big figure still today?
He came here in 1893, and when he came here, the people were very poor. They didn't have money, and he helped them build better houses, and he helped them with grants for the fishing, to improve their lives, their livelihood.
Many of these crofters were new to
They're new to fishing, yeah, because when the islanders came here, they were crofters. But the land here was so poor for crofting that they started kind of turning towards fishing. And fishing has become their livelihood as well as crofting, because they couldn't earn a living on crofting. So they had to learn new skills, and they'd be praying, that their families got home safe, that, that they had a good fishing, because the weather's pretty bad here as well. It can get quite wild in the winter. And they'd only have had wee small boats at the time, so.
I've heard as well that Father Alan spoke Gaelic, and that was actually quite a poignant, significant thing for the islanders.
Yes, he didn't originally have Gaelic. He was that fascinated by the language that he actually taught himself Gaelic. And then he kind of went on. He became a well-known poet. He wrote a lot of poems that we still use today in the church. We still sing the hymns that he wrote all these years ago.
Obviously, religion and Catholicism in particular has played a really big role on Eriskay and the wider island. Mm-hmm. Why do you think religion is so important to island life?
So I suppose crofting, fishing, there was always blessing of boats, blessing of crofts, so religion has always played a part in their lives. They've always been devout Catholics.
What does it mean to you to be an islander?
It's a sense of pride. You're proud of what the community has achieved. I think a lot of people, when they come here, they quite like that it's quite a community feel to the island.
Okay, don't want to mess this up. How long will this last for? 100 years?
If the horses leave it.
If the horses leave it.
I hope this is a fitting legacy for Father Alan.
Up.
It seems to me that in the face of hardship, religion has provided support and comfort to the people of Eriskay. I want to meet more of the community, so I'm heading up the road to one of the most picturesque spots on the island.
That's got to be up there with one of the greatest football pitch locations in the British Isles.
Now, I'm not a natural sportsman, but who wouldn't want to have a kickabout here? FIFA have recognised it as one of only 8 truly unique places to play football in the world. Others include the Moroccan desert and a Brazilian beach. I've borrowed a shirt for tonight's training session to look the part. There are players from 13 years old to over 40, and most of them are from Eriskay. They play in the Uist Barra League. The club's colours are the same as one of Scotland's biggest football teams, Celtic, which was formed by an Irish Roman Catholic in 1887. Manager Sean McKinnon grew up on the island and has been playing for the team since he was 14. Before I embarrass myself on the pitch, I'm hoping he can tell me what the club means to the islanders.
What a pitch. I mean, this is a pretty spectacular location, unless you kick the ball too far.
If that happens.
Have you ever lost a football?
Countless amounts of footballs. I couldn't even guess.
Can you talk me through the strip, the significance of it?
We've always had green and white hoops. Very significant to the locals, as most are Celtic fans, and that's probably where it originated, when the team started back in the late 50s, early 60s, where things were successful in.
And obviously the island has quite strong Catholic beliefs here. Is that rooted at all in the football club, or is that totally separate?
I would say it is rooted in the football club, especially growing up when you were starting to play. There was Eriskay Juniors, and it was the Altar Boys. That was the team, the Eriskay Altar Boys. So it's always at the core, and we always played on Sundays. We're the last team that played on Sundays. Sadly, no team plays on Sundays anymore, but that used to be a thing, church and then the football in the afternoon.
Okay guys, heels up.
I'm imagining as well, as the resident of a very small community,
that actually to have interactions like this and a sense of belonging and teamwork is even more significant maybe than other places on the mainland.
Yeah, absolutely, because it means a lot to everybody.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, whatever.
Good. Yes.
There's a strong sense of community here. For me, it's one of the things that makes island life so special.
Colours are just extraordinary. So I'm now leaving Eriskay on what's a relatively new causeway, 20 years old. Imagine how cut off this was before they had this. You were restricted to boats, to tides, to weather, all of those things. And I'm now heading to a whole new part of the Hebrides that I really don't know, the Uists. I'm pretty excited.
The Uists are a group of islands. From Eriskay, I'll be heading up through South and North Uist before I reach the island of Berneray. South Uist is the largest of these islands and the most mountainous. This is my first time in the Uists. I've heard a lot about this extraordinary island chain, and it really does have a very different feel here. Equally wild and rugged though. Driving through the island, I can't help but notice some very contrasting monuments. These big domes are part of the Ministry of Defence missile base. It's been here since the 1950s. And the roads just north of here are dotted with more shrines to the Virgin Mary. I saw one or two in Barra and Eriskay, but here there's half a dozen within just a few miles. These ones are encased in their own pedestals.
Amazing to see so many of these great Catholic symbols. They're all over the island. This isn't the only one.
They were built at about the same time as the missile base. The locals erected these statues deliberately close to the base to remind the military that they were Catholics and that this was their area, not one belonging to the military. The biggest and most imposing statue stands just below the military buildings. It's a serene image that seems at odds with the neighbouring weapons base.
There is obviously this great dichotomy between the peace-loving landscape of hope and salvation, a place where people like me come for mindfulness and spirituality and to find myself. And then you've got this, a missile tracking station. But this is kind of a reminder. It's looking out. It's like reminding them who's boss. And Our Lady of the Isles, which is what this is called, is symbolic of many different things. It's the language, it's the culture. And I think the fact that actually from certain vantage points you can see the big domes of the tracking station and you can see where the missiles were kept. This is visible from everywhere. It's watching. It's always watching.
This place is very different in other ways. It's a Gaelic-speaking area, a place where the language, culture and music of the Hebrides is kept alive. I want to understand more about this way of life and how it's formed over millennia. I'm off to Glendale, in the south of the island, to speak to Gaelic singer and practicing Catholic, Paul McCallum.
How much do you think the weather, the landscape, has played its role in the art and the poetry and the music and the clothing and everything to do with the life of the crofters here?
We are governed by the land and the sea and the wind. We're governed by it. That's what's in charge, not us. We have learned to work with Mother Nature. We don't try and change it. We work with it. So the poets of these islands would certainly use the imagery that was around them and would use the spirituality that was around them, that surrounded and does surround their lives to this day.
How important is heritage and history to islanders like yourself?
It's of paramount importance. If you don't have a history, what do you have? These islands, the history goes back thousands of years. There's Neolithic sites here. The past is part of the present. And the way the people went forward is because they were able to look at the past.
It's an outlook that can be heard in Paul's work. He's inspired by the beauty of these islands.
So I was out on the hill and I saw the eagle soaring above. So that, of course, and I composed a hymn, a spiritual song, if you want, or hymn, whatever. Na jedes cliënt an artinier sa skules kiana hi ka no vuchin vanev hamanam shain takhlu. When the sun rises in the high east and the mists of night dispel, there are rays of gold coming from the sun. My soul does sing thy praise. So that was just looking at what was around me, basically God's tapestry. That's what these islands are, it's God's tapestry.
What I find really powerful about that, Paul, is that for me this is a very spiritual place. I'm not particularly religious, but I find myself profoundly moved by everything here. The wind, the colour of green all around us, the lichen, everything I see, I find it lifts me and empowers me.
These islands has been steeped in faith. It's in their blood, it's in the rocks. That's how deep it is. Whatever you believe in, whether it be a God or your higher power or the spirituality, that power is much stronger than us.
If there was one Gaelic song or poem that you thought summed up what I'm seeing here, maybe my whole journey, is there one? Have you got some words that you could share with me?
Donald McIntyre wrote a piece, Boon and Raw, the mouth or of the Raw, the river. You know, that imagery, you know, it's beautiful. The music to that is beautiful. A song, my friend, is a painting in words. That's what it is. And the colours come from the land and the sea. I think that might answer your question.
Driving north, it's easy to see what Paul means. There's natural beauty everywhere. Looking around this landscape, the past does feel very present. It's scattered with monuments to the island's religious history. This medieval monastery at the bottom of North Uist was ransacked during the 16th century Reformation. This was the start of the revolution that brought the new Protestant religion. It's the faith that now prevails here. After speaking to Paul, I'm curious to look even further back in time, to before Christianity arrived on these shores, to understand what drew pilgrims here all those years ago. I'm hoping this ancient site on North Uist can give me an insight. It's a fortress called Dun an Sticir.
These islands have been inhabited for thousands of years. It's stuff like this that's evidence of that. Isn't that amazing that this could well have been a family's dwelling 2,500 years ago? That's crazy.
On an island, within this island, is an Iron Age stronghold. It's surrounded by a sea loch. At high tide, this stone-built causeway is covered and the fort's completely cut off. Thankfully, the tide's on its way out. These are the remains of a circular tower with walls that are 3.5 meters thick. Built around 4,000 years ago to house the local tribal chieftain, it was both a residence and a demonstration of power.
I think it's this sense of isolation and solitude and remoteness that fosters, that creates this feeling of spirituality, religion, whatever it is. And that's the reason that monks and priests and apostles and pilgrims have been flocking to these islands for many, many hundreds of years.
Is it this remoteness that still attracts islanders today, connecting them to something bigger, outside of themselves? I'm driving 16 miles across the island to meet someone who's found peace here. Artist and weaver Marie Melnichuk moved here from London less than 20 years ago. She's taking me down to a place that's very special to her.
I always get excited at this moment. You
Yeah.
don't know what you're going to see. You know what you're going to see.
Oh, I know what I'm going to see.
It's like hidden treasures.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's pretty magical.
it is. It's fantastic.
Look at these rain clouds. And then you've got these extraordinary big plains on this
Yeah.
side.
This low-lying grassy plain is known as Machair in Gaelic. It's formed by deposits of lime-rich sand and shell blown inland by the wind. It's one of the rarest habitats in Europe. They're only found on the western coasts of Scotland and Ireland. It's a magical place that inspires Marie's art.
I'm wondering what you're doing now. Are you watching or are you listening?
I'm listening.
What do you hear?
I'm listening to the rustle of the marram grass and just the wind, you know. I'm listening to the skylarks. I'm listening to the sea coming on the shore. The tractors, yeah, everything. You know.
And what does it do to you?
I think the thing about listening is it makes you be here and it makes you be present. It's almost like a kind of mindfulness. It helps you to kind of feel calm and then opens you up to thinking about, you know, the things that you want to think about, not the things like listening to bad news on the TV or whatever. You know, it's a kind of more of a sort of agitated kind of space, whereas here it's much more free, and I need to be here to feel peaceful in many ways. Yeah.
You speak with such passion and such knowledge. You speak as an islander, but you have my accent. So what does that mean to your relationship with this land?
Well, I suppose I've never really felt like I belong anywhere, because I come from quite sort of mixed heritage anyway. But when we moved to this area in 2013, and I just feel a real sense of belonging, a real sense of it doesn't belong to me, that I belong to it. And I think that is a really big difference, you know. And to fit into somewhere has been a sort of like lifelong issue, I suppose. Whereas I feel that I fit in here. And it's not fitting in with people, it's fitting in with nature and the seasons and the changing seasons.
I'm fascinated by this sense of belonging. I think a lot of people never find that place.
Yeah.
So how did you find the Hebrides?
We'd been on Skye on our honeymoon, and we used to come up here when we were first married. And when my son was born, I had, you know, like really quite bad postnatal depression. So we got in our car and we ended up here, and I just kind of fell in love with it.
How did it affect your mental well-being?
It's been really life-changing, really life-changing.
Just as Marie and her family found a sense of belonging here, I also feel that when I'm out in nature. Tonight, I've decided to sleep out on the Macher, to take it all in. I've got special permission to set up camp in the north of the island. It's a hobby I've grown to love. The wind is picking up, but the backdrop is spectacular. I feel rooted and at peace.
I feel any stress and anxiety is gone, and I find myself already slowing down and kind of adapting to island life. When I was here, someone asked whether they have a word for mañana, which is the Spanish word that means tomorrow. And the answer from the Hebrides is, we have no word that describes such haste. And that's life here. You just take it as it comes.
It's 5 a.m, but I feel alive.
That's what it's all about. There's nothing like going to sleep to the sound of the waves on the beach. Just me and the Hebrides. That's how it should be. Power of a new dawn. It's hard not to be moved when you see this. And whether you're deeply religious, whether you're spiritual, I think this is quite a powerful thing.
It's a stunning start to the last leg of my journey. I've reached the very top of North Uist, and I'm heading on to the last island on this trip.
I'm now in the most northerly part of the Uist, crossing another causeway, this time to the island of Berneray. And I'm going to find out about the lost art of keeping a secret.
Berneray has only been connected to North Uist since the turn of the millennia. Before that, it was pretty remote and secluded, a perfect place to lie low. Gloria McKillop has promised to tell me more. She came here as a young nurse after seeing a picture in a magazine.
It had two little children sitting in a micro of wildflowers, and this was down in South Uist. But it said the Hebrides. I'd never heard of them. I showed it to my Australian friend. Yes, she said, I've been there. It's beautiful. I then sat down and wrote to the authorities in Inverness, who had responsibility for these islands then, and asking, was there a position available? Back came this letter. There is a position available on the island of Berneray, 2-bedroom cottage, modern sanitation, illuminations by colour gas and oil lamp. I couldn't get here quick enough.
Were you welcomed by the islanders when you first arrived?
I felt I was. I came off a little open boat and was met by this wonderful nurse. That dear nurse had not had relief for a year, and here I was coming to do 4 months for her. But quite early in the conversation, I was given to understand, tomorrow's Sunday, don't hang your washing out. Church is at 12, and be there. Well, I did as I was bid. It was a packed church. I sat very timidly in the back row in that church, listening. Of course, when the sermon started, I understood nothing. When the singing started, it was that sound that took me back to that church every Sunday for 2 months or more before the minister thought I might like a translation, which kept us in church a little longer. It was wonderful, just being a part of it, knowing the kindness, the humanity and the caring around it.
Were you surprised at the power of the church and the draw of religion to an island like this?
I was, but I had been part of church from childhood. Mother played the organ in the little churches in the country town where we would go. That was part of our lives. But this had much more meaning and was to mean much more as time went on. I've grown to understand, well, much more of it now because I have this wonderful Christian belief now, but that's come out of being here and part of life here.
Gloria quickly settled into island life and has now been here for 54 years. She married an islander, Don Alec. Together they kept a croft and ran a B&B. And in 1987, they had a very special guest. After meeting Gloria and Don Alec on an official tour of the islands, Prince Charles asked if he could come and stay.
It was the most wonderful period. You couldn't tell who Prince Charles was. You know, he had, he just merged in and among the crofters as they were dipping sheep and marking them and out digging potatoes. It was wonderful.
What do you think drew him to come to Berneray?
Just to see how people were faring is my view of it. And I truly think that was his earnest desire to know what life was like and just to see how communities were managing. And he was able to do that for the Monday to Thursday here. Now, what took you to Terence?
That's a good question. Do you know, I think I've often wondered about this, but if you think about it, Gloria, this is why I'm here now, because I'm on a little pilgrimage through the islands to understand more about the islanders, the islands themselves, and whether I ended up on Tarrantay as destiny, whether the island drew me in, because I feel if I'm to be honest, I feel a great sense of belonging here, but this isn't my home. No. And it's quite a strange thing that maybe we weren't born in the places that we belong. And where is home where the heart is. Oh, so I think for me, the Isles I think they drew me here. And I think that year was kind of meant to be, because I learnt a lot about myself, about nature, about the land.
Exactly. And to hear this story now is wonderful. Oh, dear me.
just there, isn't it? You can almost see it. You can almost see it just around the corner.
If you don't peg your washing firmly on the line, it'll land.
It will land on Townsend.
It will. Oh my goodness.
It's not a Sunday today, so Gloria's washing is out, pegged very firmly on the line. For a long time, I've always believed that belonging on these islands is about who your ancestors are. But this trip has challenged that idea. I think it's actually about where you feel spiritually at home. I'm finishing my journey on Berneray's incredible West Beach. For me, it sums up the understated beauty, gravity and spirituality of these islands. You just need to look at it, breathe it in, belong to it. That's the answer.
Sometimes this is all you need. The power of nature, you know. I've been to the Maldives, Mauritius, the Seychelles, the Caribbean. I still think this is the most beautiful place on earth.